Well, first of all, happy Gender Day. This is Gender Day at the COP. And when the convention started, it was actually gender blind. So it's wonderful that we now have the Doha Miracle and the Lima work programme, and now this new decision on gender, which brings this much further. And it really is important because there is a very strong gender dimension to the impacts of climate on the ground. It impacts differently for women and men, and it's much harder for women. They have to pick up the pieces when their livelihoods are undermined, put food on the table when there's drought. It's so very evident on the ground. It's been very important in recent COPs and very important in COP22 that there are women leaders on gender. Women ministers, including ministers of the environment who come together, the troika of women leaders on gender and climate change, but also women in the green zone, grassroots women, women who in civil society who have all worked together to get this new gender decision and to make sure that climate policy is increasingly gender responsive. I think it's really important that we see women as agents for change at ministerial level increasingly in policy terms, but also in the front lines of coping with adapting to climate shocks. I see so many women in my role as the Special Envoy of the Secretary General on El Niño and climate. I've travelled to the countries affected by El Niño. I see women coping, but also being able to show resilience, grow new crops, have a diversity, work very hard to make sure that they can survive because they have become more resilient and given leadership. I've actually met some wonderful young women feminists here, and I'm really impressed by the way in which they factor in a holistic approach in a very good way, and they don't just take gender in a narrow sense, they live it in a very full sense, and I think that's important. And of course they have a different horizon and they're looking to the future, and they know that we have to quickly meet the targets of Paris. We have to be well below 2 degrees. We have to hopefully get to, and even if we go above 1.5 for a while, come back and maintain 1.5, then it will be better for the whole world, particularly the more vulnerable communities in the world and the more vulnerable countries like small island states. I think we have to understand that sometimes elections are not good for women, and I've certainly seen the United States an election which must worry a lot of women, but actually it's always a struggle, and we have to just try harder. And I know that there are women all over the United States who are determined that they mustn't be allowed to go backwards, and we have to help them as much as possible. Equally, we will get a woman Secretary General of the United Nations. It just will take a little bit more time, and I think we now know that it has to be well prepared for with really good candidates, and I think the world wants to see a woman Secretary General sooner rather than later, and I certainly would hope so. The Gender Day of the COP has been increasingly an opportunity for women and supportive men. We must always factor in, we need these supportive men, and they are increasingly here at meetings, and they're part of the Troika Plus, they're part of the Women's Network of the Ministers of the Environment. What it does is it provides a focus for side events, for a real emphasis for welcoming this new gender decision, which will go before the COP now. It's been through the SBI, and we can all say to each other, Happy Gender Day, and reinforce and hug each other and feel happy. I'm very encouraged by the resilience that I see in women around the world in the face of quite a lot of climate shocks, and they give me heart and hope and inspiration. And I think we need to understand that we're in a difficult time. I've seen a window into the future with the El Niño impacts in so many countries, because El Niño is now exacerbated by climate change. And I really believe that it's women who change behaviour in families. We have to change our behaviours of production and consumption. We have to save and preserve the ecosystems of Mother Earth. And it's women who can do so much for that, and especially young women. And so I really hope that we can work well together into the future.